He was untouchable. A Korean crime lord who owned the city's darkest corners. She was the one mistake he couldn't afford. So he left her behind to claim his empire. 6 years of silence. 6 years of power. Until he sees her at the airport. With 3 identical little girls. Their eyes mirror his own. His fiancée stands beside him, unaware. His past just became his present. And the man who never kneels is about to break. This is the story of the mafia boss who abandoned love, and the woman who raised his legacy alone. Welcome to a love that never died. It just waited. Hello everyone. I'm back with another Afro-Korean story that will break your heart and put it back together. Today's tale is about a mafia boss who abandoned love, only to discover he left behind 3 daughters. But before we dive in, please help me reach 2,000 subscribers. Your support means everything. Now let's begin this unforgettable journey. Don't forget to subscribe. The airport smelled like expensive perfume and other people's destinations. Dante Kwan moved through it like he owned every terminal. Because in a way, he did. Not the building, but the fear. The silence that followed his name. The way security nodded without asking questions. The way crowds parted instinctively, sensing the kind of man who didn't wait in lines. At 32, he'd learned to wear power like a second skin. His fiancée, Victoria, walked beside him in tailored white, her hand resting lightly on his arm. The diamond on her finger caught the fluorescent lights. She smiled at something on her phone. Probably their honeymoon itinerary. Santorini. Private villa. The kind of life his empire afforded. Everything was perfect. And then he saw her. Gate 47. Boarding call for Seoul. She stood near the window, backlit by runway lights, her silhouette impossibly familiar. Same shoulders. Same way of holding herself. Strong but soft, like she'd learned to carry the world without complaint. His heart stopped before his mind could catch up. Amara. 6 years evaporated. He was 26 again, standing in her tiny apartment, watching her sleep for the last time. He'd kissed her forehead, whispered an apology she'd never hear, left before sunrise because his father's death meant the family needed him. The organization needed him. And love. Love was a luxury crime lords couldn't afford. He'd chosen the empire. He'd walked away from the only person who'd ever made him feel human. And he'd never looked back. Couldn't. Because looking back meant breaking. But now she was 20 feet away. And she wasn't alone. 3 little girls surrounded her. Identical. Couldn't be more than 5 years old. Dark curls bouncing as they tugged at her hands, their laughter cutting through the airport noise like bells. Amara bent down, fixing one girl's shoe, her voice too soft to hear but her smile exactly as he remembered it. Warm. Patient. The kind of light he'd spent 6 years trying to forget. And then one of the girls turned. Dante's entire body went cold. Her face. Jesus Christ. It was his face. Miniature, feminine, but unmistakable. The same dark eyes, the same serious set to her mouth even when she smiled, the exact shape of his own childhood photographs. The second girl looked up. Same eyes, same expression. The third turned too. Triplets. His vision tunneled. The airport blurred. Victoria's voice faded into static. The world collapsed into a single, impossible truth. He had daughters, 3 of them. And he'd never known. His hand released Victoria's arm without thinking. His feet moved on autopilot, carrying him forward like a man in a dream. Or a nightmare. He couldn't tell anymore. Dante? Victoria's voice. Confused. Distant. He didn't answer. Amara straightened, herding the girls toward the gate agent. She hadn't seen him yet. Her back was to him, her shoulders squared in that way she had when she was tired but refusing to show it. 10 feet. 5. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. What could he possibly say? I'm sorry? I didn't know. I would have stayed if... One of the girls, the smallest, turned around, her eyes locked onto his. For a moment, she just stared, confused, like looking into a mirror she didn't understand. Then she tugged Amara's sleeve. Mommy, that man looks like me. Amara froze, Slowly, so slowly, she turned. And when their eyes met, Dante watched 6 years of silence shatter between them. Her face went pale, then red, then absolutely unreadable. The girl stared up at her, waiting. Victoria appeared at his shoulder. Dante, what's... Amara's gaze flicked to Victoria, to the ring, to Dante, back to Victoria. Something flickered across her expression. Pain, anger, resignation. Then she smiled. Not at him, at her daughters. Come on, angels. We're going to miss our flight. But Mommy, now. Her voice was gentle, absolute. She took their hands and walked toward the gate without looking back. Dante stood frozen, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He'd faced down rival families, survived 3 assassination attempts, built an empire on ruthlessness and control. But watching Amara walk away with his children, that broke him. Dante. Victoria's voice was sharp now. Who was that? He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the man who'd abandoned love 6 years ago had just realized what it cost him. And the crime lord, who never begged, was about to fall to his knees. He didn't remember leaving the airport. One moment he was standing at gate 47, watching Amara disappear into the jetway. The next, he was in the back of his car, staring at nothing while his driver navigated evening traffic. Victoria sat beside him, silent and sharp. Are you going to explain? She said eventually. Or should I guess? Dante's jaw tightened. An ex. I gathered that much. Her voice was ice wrapped in silk. And the children? He said nothing. Victoria laughed, cold, humorless. Of course. How very inconvenient for you. Victoria, don't. She held up one perfectly manicured hand. We have a charity gala tomorrow. The Castellano family will be there. Your absence would be noticed. So we'll discuss this later. When you've decided whether you're a man or a coward. The car pulled up to her penthouse. She left without another word, the door closing with a soft, final click. Dante sat in the silence. His phone buzzed. Messages from his underboss. Updates on territory disputes. A shipment issue at the docks. The usual fires that needed putting out. He ignored all of it. Instead, he pulled up a contact he hadn't touched in 6 years. Marco Lee, private investigator. I need everything. Tonight. The reply came in seconds. Name? Dante hesitated, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then he typed it. Amara Baptiste, currently boarding a flight to Seoul. 3 daughters, age 5. I need addresses, employment, medical records, school information. Everything. Understood. Give me 4 hours. Dante leaned back, closing his eyes. 4 hours. In 4 hours he'd know where she lived, what she did, how she'd survived 6 years alone with 3 children. His children. The thought was a knife twisting in his chest. He'd always been careful, always. But there'd been one night, their last night, when careful had felt impossible. When he'd held her like the world was ending. Because for them, it was. And now he had daughters. 3 perfect, impossible daughters, who looked at him like a stranger. His penthouse was dark when he arrived. No lights, no sound. Just the city glowing through floor-to-ceiling windows, indifferent to the implosion of his life. He poured whiskey, didn't drink it. Just held the glass and stared at the skyline he'd bled to own. Power, territory, respect. All of it suddenly felt like ash. At 2 a.m., his phone buzzed. Marco's report. Detailed, thorough, devastating. Amara Baptiste age, 28. Occupation, freelance translator, Korean English of French. Current residence, Seoul, South Korea. Shared apartment, Mapo district children. 3 daughters, triplets. Age 5, registered under her name only. No father listed. Financial status, modest. Works remotely. No criminal record, no debt. Visa status stable. Additional notes. Relocated to Seoul 7 months after your last contact. Has not returned to the U.S. since departure. Children attend local kindergarten. Medical records indicate normal development. No red flags. Dante read it 3 times. Seoul. She'd gone back to Korea, his Korea, and he'd never known. For 6 years, she'd been raising his daughters in the same country his family controlled half the underground of. And she'd never asked him for a damn thing. No child support. No demands. No threats. Just silence. He didn't know whether to admire her or break something. His phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. We need to talk. Tomorrow. 3 p.m. Han River Park, Yeouido. Come alone. His heart stopped. It was her. He didn't question how she got his number. Amara had always been resourceful. Brilliant. The kind of woman who learned 3 languages for fun and could disappear when she needed to. He typed back immediately. I'll be there. No reply. He sat in the dark until sunrise, his untouched whiskey warming in his hand. Tomorrow, he'd face her. Tomorrow, he'd see his daughters again. Tomorrow, the crime lord who'd walked away from love would have to explain why he deserved a second chance. And he had absolutely no idea what to say. Han River Park at 3 p.m. was full of life. Joggers. Cyclists. Families picnicking on the grass. Lovers walking hand in hand along the water. The kind of ordinary sunlit world Dante had stopped believing in years ago. He arrived early. Alone, as requested. No bodyguards, no backup. Just him and the weight of 6 years' worth of mistakes. She was already there. Sitting on a bench near the water, her back to him, watching the river like it held answers. She wore simple jeans and a loose sweater, her curls pulled into a bun. No makeup, no armor, just Amara. His chest tightened. He walked slowly, giving her time to sense his approach. When he was 10 feet away, she spoke without turning. You used to walk quieter. Her voice, God, her voice, warm and low and still capable of unraveling him. I wasn't trying to hide, he said. No, you never were good at that. She turned then, and the full force of her gaze hit him like a punch. 6 years hadn't dimmed her. If anything, she'd grown more beautiful, sharper, stronger. The softness he remembered was still there, but layered now with something harder. Something earned. Motherhood, he realized. Survival. Sit, she said. Not a request, a command. He obeyed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The river moved between them, indifferent. Finally, Amara exhaled. Why are you here, Dante? You asked me to come. I meant in Seoul, at the airport, in my life again. Her eyes were steady, unreadable. You left. You chose. So why now? He met her gaze. I saw them. And they're mine. She laughed, sharp, bitter. Now you notice. Amara, don't. She held up a hand. Don't you dare act like this is some tragic revelation. You knew there was a chance. That last night, we both knew. And you still left. I had to. You chose to. Her voice cracked just slightly. There's a difference. Silence. Dante's hands curled into fists on his knees. If I'd known, you would have what? Stayed? Played house? Built a nursery between your meetings with arms dealers? She shook her head. You chose your empire. I'm not angry about that anymore. But don't rewrite history to make yourself the victim. I never said, you don't have to. I can see it in your eyes. The guilt. The regret. Like somehow this is all some tragic misunderstanding. She leaned forward, her voice dropping. You made a choice. I respected it. I moved on. And now you show up at an airport with your fiancé and expect. What exactly? He didn't have an answer. Amara sat back, crossing her arms. They don't know about you. His heart lurched. What? The girls. I never told them. They've asked, obviously. Kids do. I told them their father was complicated. That he lived far away. That he loved them but couldn't be here. You lied. Her eyes flashed. I protected them. There's a difference. From what? From you. From your world. From the violence and the danger and the constant threat of losing someone they love. She paused. I grew up without a father, Dante. I know what that absence feels like. But I also know what it's like to love someone dangerous. And I won't let my daughters live in fear. They're my daughters too. Biologically? Yes. But you don't get to walk in after 6 years and claim fatherhood like it's a title. You have to earn it. Then let me. She stared at him, searching his face for something. Sincerity. Proof. He didn't know. Why? She asked finally. Why now? You have a life, a fiancé, an empire. Why complicate it? Because they're mine. That's not enough. Because... He stopped, the words catching in his throat. Amara waited. Dante exhaled, forcing himself to meet her eyes. Because when I saw them, I saw everything I gave up. Everything I told myself didn't matter. And I realized I was lying. About what? About being able to live without you. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Amara's expression didn't change. You're engaged. I know. So what are you asking for? A chance. To know them. To be. Something. Anything. She looked away toward the river. They're happy, Dante. Safe. Stable. I've built a life for them here, and I won't let you destroy that just because you're feeling nostalgic. I'm not... Then what? You'll fly in once a month? Play weekend dad? Introduce them to your world of blood and power? She shook her head. I won't do that to them. I would never... You already did. Her voice was soft now. Sad. You chose that world over me. Over us. And that's fine. But don't ask me to let you choose them now just because it's convenient. Dante's throat burned. She was right. She was absolutely, devastatingly right. He'd walked away. He'd chosen power. And now he wanted redemption without consequences. But Amara wasn't offering that. She stood, brushing off her jeans. I'm going back to the apartment now. The girls are with a sitter. You're not coming with me. Amara. But... She paused, looking down at him. If you're serious. If you actually want to be part of their lives, then prove it. Show me you can be something other than a crime lord. Show me you can choose them. Really choose them. Not just when it's easy. How? She smiled. Sad, tired, but not unkind. That's your job to figure out, Dante, not mine. And then she walked away. Again. Dante sat alone on the bench, watching her disappear into the crowd. The crime lord who never begged. The man who'd built an empire on ruthlessness. Completely, utterly powerless. To be continued. Dante didn't go back to his hotel. He sat on that bench until the sun began to set, painting the Han River in shades of gold and red. Families packed up their picnics. Lovers took sunset photos. The world kept spinning, indifferent to the fact that his had just stopped. Show me you can choose them. Really choose them. Amara's words echoed in his head like a sentencing. His phone buzzed relentlessly. Victoria, his underboss, business partners. The gala tonight. He was supposed to be there in 2 hours, shaking hands with the city's elite, maintaining the carefully constructed facade of legitimacy that kept his empire running smoothly. He ignored every message. Instead, he called Marco. I need more, Dante said when the investigator answered. More what? I gave you everything. Their school. What time do they get out? What do they like? What are their names? A pause. You want me to surveil children? I want to know my daughters. Marco sighed. The school lets out at 2 p.m. As for names, that wasn't in the public records. You'll have to ask their mother. Dante hung up. Their names. He didn't even know their names. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He'd spent 6 years building an empire, accumulating power and wealth and influence. He could move millions with a phone call, make people disappear with a word, control half of Seoul's underground with a nod. But he didn't know his own daughters' names. What kind of father was he? The answer was simple. He wasn't one at all. His phone rang. Victoria. Again. This time he answered. Where are you? Her voice was cold, controlled. The gala starts in 90 minutes. I'm not coming. Silence. Then, excuse me? I need time to think. She laughed, sharp, humorless. About what? Your ex-girlfriend and her convenient sob story? They're my children, Victoria. So you say? Have you done a paternity test? Or are you just taking her word for it? The question should have angered him. Instead, it just made him tired. I saw their faces, he said quietly. I don't need a test. How romantic. And what exactly do you plan to do about it? Abandon your responsibilities here? Walk away from everything we've built? We haven't built anything. This was always my empire. Our engagement was a business arrangement. We both know that. Another silence. Longer this time. When Victoria spoke again, her voice had changed. Softer. More dangerous. You're making a mistake, Dante. These streets don't forgive sentimentality. Your enemies will see this as weakness. They'll come for you. Let them. And the girl? The children? You think your world won't touch them? You think you can just play happy family while running a criminal organization? That stopped him. Because she was right. His world didn't allow for softness, for vulnerability, for love. Every person he'd ever cared about had become a target. His mother, dead in a car bomb meant for his father. His younger brother, kidnapped and held for ransom until Dante had burned down half the city to get him back. Love, in his world, was a weapon. And Amara had already proven she was smart enough to stay away from it. I have to go, he said. Dante. He hung up. For a long time, he just sat there, watching the river darken as night fell. Two paths stretched before him, impossibly divergent. One led back to his empire, to Victoria and the gala, and the carefully maintained balance of power that kept him alive and on top, to safety, control, the life he'd built with blood and ruthlessness. The other led to Amara, to 3 little girls with his eyes, to a chance at something real, something human. But that path had no guarantees, no protection, just hope. And hope, in his experience, got people killed. His phone buzzed one more time. A message from an unknown number. He almost deleted it. Then he saw the attachment. A photo. 3 little girls in matching school uniforms, backpacks too big for their small frames, holding hands as they walked down a street. Their faces were blurred for privacy, but he could see their hair, dark curls bouncing in the sunlight. Below the image, a single line of text. Mira, Sage, and Zuri. In case you were wondering. His vision blurred. Mira, Sage, Zuri. Their names. She'd given him their names. Dante pressed his palm against his eyes, breathing hard against the sudden tightness in his chest. Amara could have kept this from him. Could have boarded that plane and disappeared back into her life and soul, never giving him another chance. She owed him nothing, less than nothing, but she'd sent this. A thread. Thin and fragile. But a thread nonetheless. He stared at the photo until his vision cleared, memorizing every detail. The way one girl, Mira maybe, walked slightly ahead, confident and bold. The way another held back a little, more cautious. The way the third swung her arms, carefree and joyful. His daughters. His daughters. The choice suddenly didn't feel like a choice at all. Dante stood, pocketing his phone. The river stretched out before him, dark and infinite. He'd built an empire on impossible decisions, on choosing power over people, on sacrificing everything soft and good for survival. But standing here now, looking at those 3 blurred faces, he realized something. An empire without love wasn't power. It was just a prettier kind of prison. And he'd been locked inside it for 6 years too long. He pulled up Marco's number again. I need you to find someone for me. The best family lawyer in Seoul. Someone who handles custody arrangements. International cases. Quietly. You're actually doing this? Yes. What about your organization? Your territory? Dante looked out at the city lights reflecting off the water. His city. His kingdom. I'll figure it out, he said. I always do. He hung up before Marco could argue. Then he sent a message to his underboss. Clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks. Emergency family matter. You're in charge. Don't screw it up. The response came immediately. Boss, is everything okay? Dante smiled. Small, tired, but real. It will be. He took one last look at the river, then turned and walked back toward the city, toward Amara, toward Mira, Sage, and Zuri, toward something that terrified him more than any rival gang or assassination attempt ever had. A chance to be someone other than the crime lord. A chance to be their father. The next morning, Dante woke at dawn in his Seoul hotel room, not the penthouse suite he usually kept, but something smaller. Anonymous. A place where the crime lord could pretend to be just a man. He ordered coffee he didn't drink and stared at his phone for an hour, before finally typing out a message to Amara. "Can I see them?" The reply came 30 minutes later. "Not yet. But you can see me. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Same place." He showed up at 9:30, unable to help himself. Amara arrived exactly at 10, carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. She handed him one without a word, and sat on the same bench they'd occupied 2 days before. "I didn't know if you still drank it black," she said. "I do." She nodded, sipping her own. Cream, no sugar. He remembered that too. For a while, they just sat in the comfortable, uncomfortable silence of people who once knew everything about each other, and now knew almost nothing. Finally, Amara spoke. "I looked you up. After the airport." Dante's jaw tightened. And you're exactly what I thought you'd become. Powerful, dangerous, untouchable." She turned to look at him. "But you're also engaged, getting married in 3 months, according to the society pages." I called it off. Her eyebrows rose. "When?" "Last night. Because of them? Because of you. All of you." Amara studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "That was stupid." "Probably. Victoria Chen is the daughter of the Chen family. Breaking that engagement will have consequences." "I know. Political consequences, business consequences. Your enemies will see it as weakness." "I know that too. Then why?" "Because I'm tired, Amara." The words came out rougher than he intended. "I'm tired of building a life I don't want. Of making choices that kill the parts of me that still feel human. And I'm tired of pretending I don't regret walking away from you." She looked away, blinking hard. "That's not fair," she said quietly. "I know. You don't get to show up after 6 years and say things like that. I know." "Stop saying you know." Her voice cracked, and suddenly she was crying, silent tears sliding down her cheeks that she wiped away angrily, like they were betraying her. Dante's hands curled into fists on his knees, every instinct screaming at him to reach for her. To pull her close the way he used to fix this. But he had no right. So he just sat there, hating himself, while the woman he'd abandoned fell apart beside him. "I loved you," Amara said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "So much it scared me. And when you left, when you chose that life over me, I wanted to hate you. God, I tried, but I couldn't, because I understood." Dante's throat burned. "Your father had just died. Your family needed you. And I wasn't going to be the reason you resented them. So I let you go." She turned to face him, her eyes red but fierce. "But then I found out I was pregnant. And I had a choice too. Tell you and trap you in a life you didn't want. Or let you be free. You should have told me." "Why? So you could feel obligated? So you could resent me and the girls for ruining your empire?" She shook her head. "No. I chose to do this alone, and I don't regret it. Even now. Especially now. Because they're happy, Dante. They're smart, and funny, and kind. They have friends and hobbies, and a life that doesn't include guns or bodyguards or looking over their shoulders. And I won't sacrifice that. Not even for you." The words should have hurt. Instead, they filled him with something dangerously close to hope. Because Amara hadn't said no. She'd said not like this. "What if I could give them both?" he asked carefully. "Both what?" "Me and safety. What if I could be their father without bringing my world into their lives?" She laughed, sad, disbelieving. "You can't separate those things. You are your world." "Then I'll change it. People like you don't change." Watch me." Amara stared at him, searching his face for the lie. The crack. The inevitable betrayal. But Dante meant it. Every word. "I'll step back," he continued. "From the organization. Not completely. I'm not naive enough to think I can just walk away. But I'll delegate. Create distance. Build something legitimate that can support them without the danger. That could take years. Then I'll take years. Your rivals will test me. I know. But I've survived worse. And if you can't? If your world comes for them anyway?" That was the question that kept him awake at night. Because he'd seen what happened to the families of men like him. The targets painted on their backs. The fear. The constant gnawing terror that love would get them killed. But he'd also seen Mira, Sage, and Zuri walking down that street, holding hands, carefree and innocent. And he'd realized something. They were already at risk. Because he existed. Because his blood ran through their veins. Whether he acknowledged them or not, whether he was part of their lives or a ghost, they would always be vulnerable to anyone who wanted to hurt him. The only question was whether they'd face that danger with a father who could protect them, or without one. "I can't promise it'll be safe," Dante said quietly. "But I can promise I'll spend every day for the rest of my life making sure they're protected, even if that means walking away from everything I've built." Amara was quiet for so long he thought she'd refuse. Then she exhaled. "They ask about you, you know. Their father, where you are, why you're not here." She wiped her eyes. "I always told them you were far away, that you had important work, that you loved them even though you couldn't be here. You said that? I didn't want them to think they weren't enough. That's what I thought my whole childhood, that I wasn't enough for my father to stay. I won't do that to them." Dante's chest felt like it was caving in. "Thank you," he managed. "Don't thank me yet. Because if you do this, if you really want to be part of their lives, there are rules. Anything. No weapons around them. Ever. Done. No business meetings, no associates, no anything connected to your organization when they're present. Agreed. And if I say stop, if I think this is hurting them, you walk away. No arguments. No second chances." That one hurt, but he nodded. "Okay." Amara took a shaky breath. "Then, I'll think about it, about letting you meet them, properly, but not yet. You need to prove you're serious first." "How?" She stood, brushing off her jeans. "Show up. Not just once, every day. Here. Same time. For 2 weeks. No excuses. No emergencies. Just you. Proving you can choose them over everything else." Dante stood too. "I'll be here. We'll see." She started to walk away, then paused. "Dante? Yeah? They have your eyes, all 3 of them. Sometimes when they look at me, I see you. And it breaks my heart all over again." She left before he could respond. Dante stood alone by the river, the morning sun warm on his face. 2 weeks. 14 days to prove he could be someone other than the crime lord. 14 chances to show Amara and himself that love wasn't a weakness. It was the only thing worth fighting for. Day 1. Dante arrived at 9:45 a.m. The morning air was crisp, carrying the scent of the river and the distant smell of street food vendors setting up their carts. He'd barely slept, running through 1,000 scenarios in his head. What if she didn't come? What if this was a test he'd already failed? What if showing up wasn't enough? Amara appeared at 10 south at exactly, eyebrows raised when she saw him already waiting. "Eager," she said, a hint of something in her voice. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. "Committed," he corrected, standing as she approached. She didn't sit immediately, just stood there studying him like she was trying to solve a puzzle. He could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. Calculating, measuring, deciding whether this was real or just another performance from a man who'd built his life on carefully constructed lies. Finally, she sat. He followed her lead, leaving a careful distance between them on the bench. They talked, carefully, about nothing important. The weather, how Seoul had changed in recent years, the construction happening across the river, safe topics that didn't require vulnerability or honesty or the excavation of 6 years' worth of buried pain. After 30 minutes, she stood. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked. "I'll be here." She nodded once and left, her silhouette disappearing into the morning crowd. Dante sat alone for another hour, watching the river flow, feeling like he'd just survived the first round of something he didn't fully understand. Day 2. He brought her favorite pastry from a bakery he'd had to search half the city to find. He'd remembered it at 3 midnight, lying awake in his hotel room. Red bean paste buns from that tiny place in 81 she used to drag him to on Sunday mornings. She'd always ordered 2, one for breakfast, one for later, that she'd inevitably eat within the hour. It had taken him 3 phone calls and a translated conversation with an elderly baker to track down the right place. But when he handed her the small paper bag at 10 a.m., the flash of recognition in her eyes made it worth every second. Amara took it, but didn't smile. "You remember," she said quietly. "Everything." She opened the bag slowly, and for a moment, he saw something crack in her careful composure. A memory, maybe, of who they used to be, of Sunday mornings when the world was simpler and love felt possible. She ate in silence, and for 28 minutes, they existed in the same space without destroying each other. Progress. When she stood to leave, she paused. "Thank you," she said, "for remembering." Then she was gone. Day 3, it rained. Not a gentle drizzle, but a full-soul downpour. The kind that turned streets into rivers and sent everyone scrambling for cover. Dante stood at the bench anyway, soaked through within minutes, water running down his face and soaking into his expensive coat. He'd gotten texts from his driver, his bodyguard, even his underboss, all variations of, "Are you insane?" But he'd ignored them all. He'd said he'd be here. Every day. No excuses. At 10:15, he was starting to think she wouldn't come. That she was testing him, waiting to see if he'd give up when things got uncomfortable. Then he saw her, running through the rain with an umbrella, looking at him like he'd lost his mind. "You're going to get sick," she said, slightly breathless, holding the umbrella over both of them. Water dripped from his hair into his eyes. "I told you I'd be here." "I meant when it's reasonable, Dante. Not during a monsoon." "You said every day. You didn't specify weather conditions." For a moment, she just stared at him. Then something shifted in her expression. Something soft and dangerous, and almost like the way she used to look at him before everything fell apart. "You're ridiculous," she said. "Probably." She almost smiled. Almost. They stood under her umbrella, close enough that he could smell her shampoo. Still the same coconut scent he remembered. Close enough to notice she was shivering slightly, her jacket not quite waterproof enough for this kind of rain. Without thinking, he shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. "You're already soaked," she protested, "and you're cold." She didn't argue further. Just pulled his coat tighter around herself and looked up at him with eyes that held too many questions. They stayed like that for nearly an hour, watching the rain turn the river silver, not talking much. Just being. When the rain finally slowed, Amara handed back his coat. "Same time tomorrow?" she asked. Rain or shine. This time, when she walked away, he could swear he saw a smile. Day 4, she asked about his business. They were sitting in their usual spot, the river calm after yesterday's storm. She'd brought coffee for both of them this time, his black, hers with cream and no sugar. "Are you really stepping back?" she asked, not looking at him. "From the organization?" Dante took a careful sip of coffee, buying time to choose his words. "My underboss is handling day-to-day operations. The major decisions still go through me, but I'm creating distance, delegating more than I ever have. That must be hard for you, giving up control." "It's terrifying," he admitted. "Everything I built could fall apart. My enemies might see it as weakness. There are people who'd kill for the chance to take what's mine. Then why do it?" He turned to look at her fully. "Because what's the point of having an empire if I'm alone in it?" Amara was quiet for a long moment, turning her coffee cup in her hands. "And Victoria?" she asked finally. "Sent back the ring, along with a message I won't repeat in polite company." This time, Amara did smile, small and quick, but genuine. She always seemed charming. She has her moments. He paused. The engagement was never about love. You know that, right? It was strategic. Her family's connections, my family's power. A merger dressed up as romance. I figured. The only woman I ever loved. He stopped, the words catching in his throat. Amara looked at him then, her eyes searching his face. Don't, she said softly. Don't say things you can't take back. What if I don't want to take them back? She stood abruptly, her coffee forgotten on the bench. Same time tomorrow, Dante. And she left, before he could say anything else. Day 5, he asked about the girls. He'd been working up to it all morning, rehearsing questions that didn't sound desperate or invasive, or like he was trying to claim something he had no right to. Amara must have sensed it, because when she arrived, she sat down and said, "What do you want to know?" Everything, he wanted to say. Every detail, every moment, every second of the 5 years I missed. What are they like? He asked instead. Amara's entire expression softened in a way that made his chest ache. This was the look he remembered, the one that used to be reserved for him. Now it belonged to their daughters. Mira's the leader, she said, a smile playing at her lips. Bold. Fearless. She's the one who stands up for her sisters when kids are mean. Last week, a boy pushed Sage off the swing, and Mira marched right up to him, this tiny 5-year-old with her hands on her hips, and told him if he ever touched her sister again, he'd regret it. Dante felt something fierce and proud bloom in his chest. She got in trouble. The teacher called me in. I had to explain that while I appreciated Mira's protective instincts, violence wasn't the answer. Amara laughed softly. She looked at me with these serious eyes and said, "But Mommy, sometimes words aren't enough." And I didn't know what to say because she wasn't wrong. She sounds like you. She sounds like both of us, actually. Your stubbornness, my sense of justice. God help us all. Amara's smile widened. Sage is quieter, thoughtful. She loves books and drawing. She'll sit for hours just creating these elaborate stories in her notebook, full narratives with characters and plots. Last month, she wrote a 20-page picture book about a dragon who was afraid of fire. 20 pages at 5 years old? She's gifted. The teachers say she's reading at a 2nd grade level already. Pride radiated from Amara's voice. She draws constantly. Everything she sees. Last week, she drew a portrait of me making breakfast, and it was surprisingly accurate. A little unsettling, honestly, how observant she is. And Zuri? Amara's expression went impossibly softer. Zuri is sunshine, pure, uncomplicated joy. She makes friends everywhere we go. The cashier at the grocery store knows her by name. She laughs at everything, terrible jokes, silly faces, her own shadow. She's the one who holds us together when things get hard. When I'm exhausted and Mira's being stubborn, and Sage is lost in her own world, Zuri is the one who crawls into my lap and says, "It's okay, Mommy. We're all okay." Dante's throat tightened. He could picture them so clearly. 3 little girls, each perfect and unique, each carrying pieces of him and Amara in different combinations. They sound perfect, he managed. They are. Even when they're driving me crazy, they're perfect. She turned to him, her expression serious. "That's why I need you to be sure about this, Dante. They're happy, stable. Their world is safe and predictable. And I won't let you disrupt that unless you're absolutely certain you can follow through." "I'm certain." "Are you?" "Because showing up for 2 weeks is easy. Being a father is hard. It's scraped knees and bad dreams and terrible school plays. It's putting them first even when it's inconvenient. Even when your empire needs you. Even when walking away would be easier. I know. Do you? Because you've spent your whole life putting the organization first. Your father taught you that family was the business. But Dante..." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "These girls aren't soldiers. They're not assets. They're children who deserve a father who shows up. Not sometimes. Not when it's convenient. Always." The weight of her words settled over him like a judgment. "I know I don't deserve them. he said quietly. I know I have no right to walk into their lives after 6 years. But Amara, I'm not asking to replace the life you've built. I'm asking for a chance to add to it. To be something other than the ghost you had to explain away. She studied him for a long, silent moment. Then she pulled out her phone, swiped through her photos, and turned the screen toward him. 3 little girls in matching school uniforms, backpacks too big for their small frames, holding hands as they walked down a street. That's them, she said softly. That's what you're asking to be part of. Dante's vision blurred as he stared at the image. His daughters. Can I? His voice came out rough. Can I save this? Amara hesitated for only a moment before nodding. I'll send it to you. His phone buzzed a moment later with the photo, and he stared at it until the image was burned into his memory. Thank you, he whispered. Day 6. Amara brought more photos. Not many, just 3 more. One of each girl, individual shots that captured their personalities perfectly. Mira, arms crossed, glaring at the camera with defiant confidence. Sage, curled up with a book in a reading nook, completely absorbed. Zuri, mid-laugh, her whole face lit up with joy. Dante stared at them until the images blurred. Can I keep these? His voice came out rough. Amara hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but Dante, these aren't just pictures. They're my daughters, our daughters. And if you keep them, it means you're committed to this, to them. No backing out when it gets hard. I understand. Do you? Because once they know you exist, really know, not just the abstract idea of a father, you can't take it back. You can't decide later that this is too complicated, or that your empire matters more. They'll remember. They'll carry that rejection forever. I won't do that to them. You already did. Once. The words hit like a slap. I know, he said quietly, and I can't change that. But I can make sure I never do it again. Amara handed him the photos, and he took them like they were made of glass. He carried those photos in his wallet for the rest of his life, worn and creased at the edges from being taken out and studied during every quiet moment. Day 7, halfway through. The morning was cool, autumn starting to creep into the soul air. They'd fallen into a rhythm now, arriving at the same time, settling onto the bench with coffee, talking or not talking depending on the day. Today, Amara was quiet, pensive. Finally, she spoke. Why now? She asked. You could have looked for me any time in the last 6 years. I wasn't hiding. If you'd wanted to find me, you could have. Dante had known this question was coming. Because I was a coward, he said finally. I told myself I was protecting you, that staying away kept you safe from my world. But the truth is, I was protecting myself, from having to face what I'd lost, from having to admit I made the wrong choice. And now? Now I'm still a coward, but I'm trying to be brave. Amara looked at him, really looked, like she was seeing him for the first time. You've changed, she said softly. Have I? The Dante I knew would never admit weakness, would never say the words I was wrong. My father taught me a lot of things that turned out to be lies, that power mattered more than people, that love was a liability, that showing emotion made you a target. He turned to face her fully. He was wrong about all of it. That's a dangerous realization for a man in your position. I know. My underboss thinks I'm losing my edge. My rivals are circling. He smiled without humor. And they're probably right. By every metric that matters in my world, I'm making terrible decisions. Then why keep making them? Because I'd rather be weak and human than powerful and empty. Amara's eyes shimmered. You can't just erase 6 years with pretty words, Dante. I know. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to be honest. Maybe for the first time in my life. And the honest truth is that walking away from you was the worst decision I ever made. Not because of the girls, though, God, I wish I'd known about them. But because I loved you, Amara. Really loved you. And I chose everything else instead. She was quiet for so long he thought he'd pushed too far. Instead, she reached out and took his hand. Just for a moment. Her fingers lacing through his. familiar and foreign all at once. Then she pulled away, but the ghost of her touch remained. "Same time tomorrow," she whispered. And somehow, it felt like forgiveness. Day 8 through 11 passed in a blur of small revelations and careful trust-building. She told him about raising triplets alone, the sleepless nights, the overwhelming fear that she wasn't strong enough, the way her mother had flown from Jamaica to help those first impossible months. He told her about his father, the monster who built an empire, the man who taught him that love got people killed. They walked along the river, shared coffee, shared silence, and slowly, impossibly, they began to remember who they used to be to each other. Day 9, Dante's underboss called with an emergency. "Boss, the Nakamura family is moving on our western territory. They hit 3 of our businesses last night. We need you back. Now." Dante looked at his watch. 9:52 a.m. 8 minutes until Amara arrived. "Handle it." "What? Boss, this is serious. You have my authority to respond however you see fit, but I'm not coming back." "Boss, I'm busy. Emergency family matter. Don't call again unless someone's dying." He hung up. When Amara arrived and noticed his expression, he told her about the call, about the choice he'd just made. She was quiet for a long moment. "You really meant it," she said softly. "About choosing differently?" "Yes." Something shifted in her expression. Something that looked like trust beginning to take root. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thermos. "I brought hot chocolate," she said. "Thought we could share." It was such a small gesture. It felt like everything. Day 12, she asked the question he'd been dreading. "What happens after day 14? "I don't know," he admitted. "That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have." He turned to face her. "I can't promise you a fairy tale, Amara. I can't promise safety or normalcy. My world is dangerous. There are people who'd hurt you and the girls just to get to me. That's the truth. I know. But I can promise I'll try. Every single day. To be better. To be someone worthy of them. Of you. I can promise I'll put them first. That I'll show up. That I'll protect them with everything I have. Even if it costs you your empire? Yes. You say that now, but when it comes down to it, I already chose. That's what these 12 days have been. Every call I've ignored. Every crisis I've delegated. Every time I've put sitting here with you ahead of running my organization. I've been choosing. And I'll keep choosing them. Always." Amara was quiet for so long he thought he'd said too much. Then, "Okay." His heart stopped. "Okay? After day 14, you can meet them. Day 13, they made plans. I'll tell them first," Amara said. "Prepare them. Explain who you are and why you haven't been around. What if they don't want to meet me? That's possible. Mira might be suspicious. Sage might be scared. Zuri will probably hug you within 5 minutes. But I won't force them. This has to be their choice too. And Dante? Don't expect them to love you immediately. They're smart, but they're still just kids. They'll be cautious, confused, maybe even angry. I know. But I have to try. Even if they hate me. Even if they never want to see me again. I have to try. Day 14. The last day. Dante arrived early, his hands shaking, his heart pounding. He'd worn his simplest clothes. Jeans, a sweater. Nothing that screamed wealth or power or danger. At 9:55 he saw them. Amara, walking slowly up the path, and beside her, holding her hands, 3 little girls, Mira, Sage, Zuri, his daughters. Dante's knees almost gave out. They were smaller than he'd imagined, more real, more perfect. Amara stopped a few feet away. Dante stood slowly, his heart in his throat. Then Amara squeezed the girls' hands gently. "Girls, there's someone I want you to meet. This is your father." Silence. Then Mira stepped forward. "You look like us," she said. Dante crouched down. "You look like me," he whispered. "Where have you been?" "Far away, working. I didn't know about you, but when I found out, I came as fast as I could." Mira seemed to accept this. Then Sage took a tiny step forward. "Do you like books?" she asked quietly. "I do. Maybe you could recommend something?" A small smile appeared on her face. Then Zuri rushed forward and threw her arms around Dante's neck. "Hi, Daddy. I'm Zuri." Dante's arms wrapped around this tiny, perfect human. His vision went completely blurry, his throat closed, and for the first time in 6 years, the crime lord who never cried fell apart. He held Zuri gently, his shoulders shaking, his daughter patting his back. "It's okay, Daddy. We're all okay." When he finally looked up, Amara was crying too. "Can we stay for a while?" Mira asked. Amara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yeah, baby, we can stay." And they did. All 5 of them, sitting by the river, learning how to be a family. But as the sun began to set and the girls played near the water's edge, Dante's phone buzzed with a message that made his blood run cold. A photo of the girls leaving school yesterday, with one word beneath it. Found. His past had just become their nightmare. But as Dante held his daughters for the first time, his phone buzzed. A photo of the girls leaving school yesterday. One word beneath it. Found. Then a second message arrived. A location, a time, and a threat that made his hands shake. Victoria's family knew everything, and they were coming for what he loved most.